Good morning, Charles. How are you?
I'm okay, Dan. How are you?
I'm well.
I'm a little tired. I didn't get great sleep last night. Got home a little bit late from your place. Still having hardware challenges with our recording equipment.
It's amazing how it's like, I think it's coming down to like one little cable or computer or setting that just is really throwing a monkey wrench into the most important part of having a podcast, and that's the audio.
I know.
It's not even exactly. The video. That's the ironic part, right? It's like we've got a video studio, but it's the audio we've got a problem with.
Yeah, and I made an account with the manufacturer of our device so that I can start the support process to get him to, get them to tell me, like, look, this is how you fix this problem. And boy, do I need them to tell me how to fix this problem, or at least tell me what the issue could be, what could be causing it, what I could try. I mean, their troubleshooting list of, update this driver, turn this off, turn this back on. It's like, yeah, I know how that works. I've done all those things and it's still not working. So give me something I can use. And I think I'm going to have to talk to a real person, preferably one who lives, relatively close to my time zone. We'll see how that goes.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a frustrating journey with trying to get that hardware to do what we need it to do, which will make it all the sweeter when it finally works, right? Is that how it's supposed to be?
That's exactly right. Yes, we will absolutely appreciate it a lot more rather than just kind of rolling in there and go, oh, hey, I'm just getting it going without much effort, right?
Yeah, I hope so. So, let's see what's going on. I'm coming up with moving day in 2 days. Gonna move my RV
day for you.
From down here by Disney, a little closer to you, up in the Sanford Sorrento area, which I am ready for my change of scenery, and I am not ready to hitch this thing up to a truck and move it, though. I've got a lot of work to do today and tomorrow to make that happen.
Yep.
I appreciate your willingness to come and aid me in my quest. I was looking at maybe going away for Christmas this year. I can find some okay deals on airfare and hostels to jolly old England. So I was thinking of maybe doing a few days. I've never been to London, and I was thinking about maybe going to London for 4 or 5 days. Right, Christmas is on a weekend this year, and so from a work perspective, getting out of town on Thursday and getting back on Monday over Christmas would work out pretty well. So I'm a little tempted to do that. I just, it's taken a fair bit of new car money off the table for me to do that, though. So I'm trying to decide if it's worth it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were really hopped up on the new car. So I'm surprised you're willing to put that aside for this trip.
I know. It's just, when there's a battle between a new thing and a new experience, for me, experience usually wins. And, especially...
What is it about London and London and Christmas time that you are particularly interested in? Was it just a good deal, or was it, I mean,
the deal's okay. I mean, I can score a really nice bed I can score a bed at a really nice hostel for like $170 out the door for like 4 nights. So it's real cheap to stay there. Getting there is going to cost me about $800 round trip, which is still not bad to go to Europe. $800 round trip is not crazy. And just being able to look back on Christmas 2023 when I was in London for Christmas. I mean, I'm a sap for holidays anyway, whether it's Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, this whole time of the year, my birthday, is just holiday after holiday after holiday that I love. And so I do have a tendency to want to make them memorable and special and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
I did book this trip to Boston to go look at the leaves, which the airfare was very cheap. The airfare was like $70. But, staying in the hotel, eating while I'm up there, Ubering, getting from place to place, I could probably shave off $300 just by skipping that. Even if I just give up the $70 ticket that I bought, I could probably save myself $300 or $400 just by not doing that trip and putting that toward the Christmas trip instead. So that's one thing that I will toy around with, because I've been to Boston in autumn to see the leaves change like 4 years in a row, or pretty close to it, So skipping that would not really hurt my feelings much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would probably be a smart move.
Doing that. But I don't know. $800 on a ticket is 10 times what I'm used to spending on flying around America to go see stuff. So it is hard to think about dropping that much money on a ticket, But I don't know. I do love the holidays, and I love this time of year.
It's a special place. It's a special place. It's not, it's
not flying to Cleveland.
There's a lot of history there, obviously. And it's that's not something you do all the time, and it's not something
right.
It's easy to make happen. So there's a little bit of unique scarcity value there,
True.
I believe.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's something that I'm toying around with the idea of. I do love to travel. I love new adventures. I love going places. So we'll see if I decide to do it or not. All right, what else is going on? I guess that's about it on my list. You got anything exciting to report? How's your camper?
I don't know. I haven't been there since the hurricane hit, so I'm gonna go up there today and check it out. I don't. Fortunately, this area, Central Florida, didn't get hit very hard. We got a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind. That was it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have anything outside my camper other than a tarp and a couple of LED lights. So I think I should be good. But I still. My perfectionist tendencies and trying to make this a seamless experience when I go up there in terms of having all the creature comforts of home. I didn't realize what a high maintenance princess I actually am until I got in there and I go, oh, I didn't realize I use this on a regular basis. I use that on a regular basis or whatever, and I was just like, wow, this is a lot of this stuff I would normally not bother bringing with me on a trip somewhere. But if I really want to make this, a home away from home,
right?
There's like a lot of little things that I'm just like, wow, which is fine. But it's been eye opening, and I've been keeping track of it as well, because it isn't just like packing your stuff for a weekend. I really thought it kind of was going to be,
right.
And I guess I could make it that way. Part of the nice thing of having your place is not having to pack everything up. You just show up there and everything's there, right? Yeah. And so I've been keeping track of that for, your RV Freedom Coach business, just to, so it's, a nice little list we can provide, or you can provide people, and I can pass along some things that you just don't think of. And that's been fun. I'm going to check that out and kind of hopefully not have to repair anything. Funny thing happened the other day is, how we tried to change out the lock on the door.
Yeah.
And it was working fairly well when we left. About a week later, I went, and the old one that we put back in, or that I put back in there, now is not locking very easily at all. And
really?
I mean, I'm literally having to slam it shut from so something expanded, shifted, or moved, and I'm going to have to play with it a little bit when I get back there, because it almost is unclosable from the inside at this point.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Did you send the automated lock back?
I did, and they were good about it. Did they say anything?
They didn't. Okay.
I mean, I had to pay for shipping back, which was almost $30 for that.
Oh yeah,
that
is a heavy little
$80. That $180 lock, I had to pay $30 to ship it back, but they refunded me the entire amount back without any problems. So
okay,
yeah.
That's a bummer. I'm sorry it's not working out for you. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. We'll make it work. Even if I have to get a locksmith in there to to fix my problems, I think I could just jiggle it a little bit and maneuver it and just unscrew a few things, and we'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it too much. So
yeah, and I'll next time I head over there, I will bring my cordless driver, because I remember just having to do all those adjustments with the manual screwdriver. Made that job take so much longer than it would have if I could have just.
I did invest at least in a ratcheting screwdriver, so I'm gonna
that's
play
good.
with that. I'm gonna play with that today, but other than that,
I think I am going to possibly invest today. I'm definitely going to invest in a torque wrench for lug nuts, because I watched some video where it was saying how the lug nuts on the camper need to be between 90 and 120 foot-pounds of torque. And I have never done anything with changing a tire other than just tightening it up until I couldn't tighten it anymore. Then okay, I'm done. But apparently,
whatever foot-pounds that was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but apparently for safety, both on your car and on your RV, there's supposed to be a certain amount of tightness that a lug nut is set to. And if you don't have it correct, then bad things could potentially happen. I don't know.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to Harbor Freight, my favorite store for really dirt cheap tools, and get like a $16 torque wrench so that I can, I guess you set it for how tight you want it to be, and then you pull it, and then once it gets that tight, then it starts clicking, kind of like when you set the drag or whatever you would call that on a drill, so that when it gets tight to a certain point, it clicks instead of still trying to strip the screw. So I think that's how this thing's supposed to work, and I'm going to pick up one of those. I am also thinking, I've been driving when I move my RV. I don't know if it's because it's an RV and it's heavy and I only have two wheels, but it always looks like my tires are a little on the flat side. I don't know if they are or not, but I can buy a very small air compressor for like $59, and then I don't have to stop at a gas station when I'm moving my RV or anything like that. I can just plug it in and have my own compressed air that I can use to top off my tires and your tires every time before we move our campers.
Oh, nice. So, wait, do you just get brand new tires?
I did, and they filled them up at the place to 50 psi. So I'm probably good for now. Yeah, maybe I'll just worry about buying this after the move, because then it's one less thing I have to load into my camper.
Maybe it was just the fact your tires were sold. Maybe that
could be it too. Now. They could have been crappy tires. Yeah, and I mean they were old, and they may not have been holding holding pressure the way they were supposed to. So, but now I got 3 brand new ones.
Nice.
That I feel relatively sure I'll be okay. We'll see.
All right. Yeah, we'll find it on Sunday.
The other thing I need to buy today is a giant bin. So all the loose things in my camper, like my books and stuff on my desk. And
good idea.
If I have just one big bin that I can put in the middle of the floor, that will.
Good tip. I'm gonna grab one of those too. For mine. Yeah.
Yeah, just so that I don't have to worry about things moving around quite so much. And I need to either my computer desk that I'm sitting at right now is just standing on 5 legs. It is not secured to the wall, which means before I move, I also need to sort of put it down on the floor, like lean it down sideways on the ground, so that it doesn't, because last time I moved, inertia did that for me instead of me doing it before the move. So I'd taken everything off of it, but then when I got to my destination, I opened the door and the desk is just laying sideways down on the floor. So I've got to prepare for all that stuff today, and so it will definitely be I will leverage my completely legitimate prescription for ADHD medication that I have to to help me make a real banger of a list with all the stuff I have to do today, and hammer through that list and get all this crap done so that when you show up Sunday morning, we are ready to hitch up and hit the road. Mostly
sounds good. Sounds good.
I will need your help getting my 120-pound generator up on the little shelf that it's going to sit on for the move. So.
All right, no problem.
Other than that, I'm not going to make you do too much manual labor. So anyway, that's where we're at. We're 15 minutes in. Let's talk about this book that we've been covering forever and what we are and are not going to talk about today. So
yeah,
we start. The title of the next chapter is "The Power of Sex." So we're cringy right out the door. I mean, it's
yeah.
Because, it's not like, I wonder if putting the word power and the word sex together could be, a potentially hairy situation. I wonder if, and I was telling you, we talked about this a bunch before we started recording. It's like, I resent the author of this book for his lack of nuance in many areas, and this one could be the worst, where it's like, I mean, I believe he is a trained psychologist, and he's just like, I'm just going to throw these words out here and, let people just interpret them and read into them however they want to. And, hey, it's not my job. I just wrote the book. So, good luck. Enjoy.
Yeah.
And not knowing that there are regular guys with no training who might want to have a podcast about his material. And it's like, okay, now what are we supposed to do?
He really wasn't thoughtful about writing this book, thinking about all these different situations. I feel like that was a big miss on his part.
Yeah, I really it really is a source of frustration for me, where he does seem to be just word vomiting. And not feeling like there's any, I don't know. It's like, it's a question. How responsible is an author for what happens with, people who, I mean, when you write a book, you're writing a book because you're like, I want my thoughts in other people's heads. That's the reason you write a book, right? It's the reason you start a podcast. You're like, I want my thoughts to be in other people's heads. And
right. So, I mean, I can answer that right on here on the page 2. This is a work of nonfiction. Information contained within the book is strictly for educational purposes. If you wish to apply the ideas contained in this book, you are taking full responsibility for your actions. So clearly, he did either speak to a lawyer or
that's what I'm thinking.
Publisher decided. Yeah, right. That's. I mean, it's the disclaimer nobody reads, right?
I'm looking at this one line where he says, one of the most common complaints leveled against men is that men have become too passive and submissive in bed. I wonder what one of the other most common complaints about men is. Like, stop raping people all the time. Right. Stop sexually assaulting women. Well, I mean, no, we've talked about this. There are like 5% of the guys that do 100% of the raping, right?
And unfortunately, right, and that's what's making the news, unfortunately. And so it's you're not hearing they're not dragging guys who are like, well, this guy was really lousy in bed because he didn't do anything and he made the woman take the lead, right? Like you never see a story about that, right?
Right. I mean, that is still a problem, and that is a thing that negatively impacts people and relationships. But so is the other side of it, where I mean, whenever you write a book or have a conversation about men need to be more dominant, the piece of shit men that are out there are going to use that as a license to be the pieces of shit that they are. And
so
it's not my job. I'm going to
offer something to think about, right? So I'm going to offer something to think about, right? Like, so how likely do you think these pieces of shit men who, think about raping or have raped or whatever are actually going to read or listen to a book, especially like this? I don't know.
I don't know,
mean,
man.
They might.
I troll some, I have been on some subreddits that talk very much about men's sexual strategy, men's perspective on relationships, and these guys are out there and they have internet connections and they also probably buy books on Audible. So
maybe.
I don't know.
Look, right. I mean, we could sit here all day and guess and stuff. And I think, but I agree with you. He just, the words that he uses, the sentences and the ways he phrases things in this chapter are uncomfortable because I don't feel he did a good job with, I guess, setting the environment up properly in terms of the mindset and being a little bit more specific about the situations. I think also the title, The Power of Sex, what I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. To me, I kind of take that as, what sex means in a relationship and how powerful it is once you have sex with a woman. What it means in terms of, because he kind of gets into that a little bit in terms of the biology and all of the neurochemicals that happen in both, on both brains of human beings when we have sex. And so, but yeah, it's using those specific words definitely raises an eyebrow and, makes you want to dig in a little bit. We talked about that this morning where I feel like if he had just changed the order of the chapters around a little bit. So the one that comes two chapters afterwards, the Lead Her into Attraction chapter, where he really kind of talks about, being playful, kind of talking about the difference between being dominant and being aggressive, and just, the negative consequences of being too aggressive, and he gets at a little bit of nuance of in terms of what taking the lead and being dominant means. I feel like that definitely should have come before this chapter.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, the other thought I'm having is, and this is a thought that, when operating at my best, I have this thought frequently, which is how much of my discomfort with this is about my own shit and how, why is this, worrying me / annoying me / feeling complicated in ways that maybe it's not because, as a recovering nice guy, it's like, yeah, sex and feelings are two areas that I have some discomfort with. And so what is feeling so triggering about this chapter to me? Is everything he's saying actually okay and I'm just having a weird reaction to it? Or is it not okay and my own weirdness and my own, idiosyncrasies and my own personality traits are just firing off in a way that somebody else's wouldn't, even though, there's objectively troublesome stuff in this chapter. My detector is just more finely tuned to it than somebody else's might be. I don't know which of those it is. I have no idea. And I don't know, how to get that answer. I mean, I could ask Renata to read the chapter and tell me, but then she's going to charge me.
I think most of it for all of us is our own. All we have is our own brains and experience to interpret anything, right?
Yeah.
So, it's each of us. And, we happen to have, some similar thoughts about this, so that kind of complicates things. And I think can also make us think, hey, this is universally not good or uncomfortable or whatever that is, because we happen to agree on a lot of these points that make us uncomfortable. And maybe that's because we both were nice guys or, recovering nice guys, I should say. Right. Maybe that plays into a factor, and I'm sure it does at some level. So, I think, I think it's difficult to say that this is, universally bad.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to say that anything is, but
to dumb it down.
Right. And yeah, I don't know. Getting into the weeds on it though is just not something I feel ready to do yet.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I'm surprised that anybody would feel comfortable getting into the weeds in some of this stuff and saying, telling other men, hey guys, if you want a woman to love you and stay with you, here are the things you need to do to her / with her when you're having sex with her. It's like, that seems like it requires a not only a certain amount of education, but I would also say a certain amount of hubris to say, I'm going to be the guy that tells you, here's what you ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, again, I feel, I think a lot of this doesn't necessarily apply to obviously there's nothing that applies to every single person. Let's just, let's put that out on the table, right? It's impossible to say, yeah, this is a universal rule, applies to everybody in every situation.
Of course.
And I think where, you and I kind of get uncomfortable is I think we wrestle with that a little bit. I feel like, I know I do at least, where it's, maybe it's my IT engineering background, my nice guyness, my perfectionism, whatever it is, where it's just like, I want things that are immutable laws, right? That and like recipes to follow that basically are universal principles. And that is certainly not the case here. Another, example, just a little bit more of a painful example or a sensitive example. Yeah. So do you want to get into maybe the leader into attraction chapter a little bit and then consider talking about it, or do we want to go into never give your love too easily, which is the one in between?
Well, we can cover never give your love too easily real quick, because we have been talking about this for pretty much the whole book, which is do not overinvest in people, do not interact with people at a level of intimacy and a level of familiarity that is not appropriate given what your actual relationship with that person is. And he restates it throughout the book in multiple ways and multiple times, which, it is basically saying, do not be the one to push for more relationship than actual relationship exists with someone. And in this particular 1.5 page chapter, he's basically saying that when a woman is ready for an escalated level of commitment or level of relationship with you, she will make that known to you. And if you are the one that takes the lead to say, hey, I'm really enjoying my time with you and I'm not going to date anybody else and I don't want you to date anybody else either, then they're in a traditionally masculine feminine relationship, that will take the man down a peg if he is the one to essentially blink first when it comes to commitment in that way, and I tend to agree with him.
Yeah. It's interesting that, he talks about some research that came out of the Journal of Social Psychology and found that out of 172 participants, it took men anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks to fall in love, whereas the women took no less than a couple of months to fall in love. And that's interesting. I'm curious, Charles, any thoughts on your side about why the average guy tends to rush things when it comes to falling in love and wanting that, I'm not going to say that relationship, but saying I'm in love, which obviously it's based on not a lot of information, not a lot of time, not a lot of experience, and therefore I feel is not authentic. Versus why a woman tends to kind of at the beginning, at least, seem to take a more logical approach, if you will, to love,
right?
Because she's basing it on actual reality, and men, I feel, typically will get in their heads and have these fantasies and draw out these scenarios that haven't existed and don't exist, and end up falling in love with these ideas and these fantasies that they have in their minds of spending time with a woman or building a life with a woman that it hasn't happened yet. So I just wonder Any thoughts on why that happens? Or
well, the good news is I think I have it completely figured out.
Okay, all right.
The bad news is I think I have it completely figured out.
So, ooh, interesting. All right.
My intuition tells me that the reason it happens that way is because getting it wrong is so much more expensive for women than it is for men. If a man chooses and mates with the wrong woman, and let's say, in very old-fashioned, brutal terms, all right, he mates with the wrong woman, and the result is a sick, weak child that will probably not last long enough to pass his genes on, then the man just leaves, and he goes and gets somebody else pregnant.
Yeah.
Where
That's a good point.
If that happens to a woman, if she chooses the wrong man and makes a baby with him, and that baby is sick or weak, or he doesn't have the ability to protect them or provide for them that she thought that he did, then her whole life is basically screwed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why I believe women have to be more discerning with who they fall in love and then consequently reproduce with than men do, because for, X number of millennia, men have had the option of, okay, well, I picked the wrong one, so I'll just, go over to the next village and get somebody else pregnant.
So with the advent of birth control and abortions, how do you feel like that has affected women in general or in society? You think it's had any type of effect in terms of making, helping women feel a little bit less, I guess, at risk for having their whole life fucked up, let's say, right?
Yeah, I think that, I think with birth control in particular in, what was it, the 50s or the 60s, women have the option now for more casual sexual relationships than they would have before.
Mm-hmm.
And, many choose to take advantage of that fact. Many choose not to. But, the biological drivers have not changed since the 1950s, where you and I were talking about this yesterday. Right. I mean, our brains are pretty much the same as they were 100,000 years ago. And so while culture changes and social norms change, human biology takes a lot longer to change. So I think the way that, a lady's brain and a lady's heart, if you want to get metaphysical about it, the way they work when it comes to pairing up and bonding with men, we're still, the software's new, but the hardware is pretty old,
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter the external support resources that are available. It doesn't change our biology. Yeah.
So that is the answer to why I think that they're able to go longer before falling in love than men are.
Makes sense.
But again, as I often like to say, I am just an uneducated genius with lots of opinions. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. And it's a good reminder for men to, that it's not, we're not wired to be patient when it comes to falling in love and desiring a woman and things like that. So yeah, guys, it's going to be uncomfortable. And I always find that if you go into a situation with the proper mindset, knowing that things are going to be a little bit tough or difficult, it's a little bit easier to, to handle. So.
And also keep in mind, our male, physiology has not caught up either. We can have, especially the younger we are, we can have these urges to go out there and, fall in love quickly and have sex with women as quickly as we can, thinking that our bodies will tell us and behave as if just moving to the next village and getting somebody else pregnant is an option. But with DNA and paternity tests and child support and courts, it's not that it's not as simple for us as we like to act like it is. And so, our brain is still willing to fall in love with a woman after a couple of days or a few weeks, acting as if we have the option of, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go start a family somewhere else. It's like, no, we don't have that choice either. So, we're both both men and women are kind of working off of signals from our body that don't really reflect the new reality of what it is to live in the West in 2023.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you got to kind of, you gotta actively work on getting that newer part of your brain, the front part, involved in your decision making. Because if you leave it all up to the back part that we share with the lizards and the snakes, then we're gonna not get the results out of life that we want.
And that being said, just another reason to practice some sort of relaxation techniques, such as, meditation, journaling, walking outside, exercising, those things, because the more stressed we are, the more we will operate purely from the lizard part of our brain, the primitive part of our brain. And because we're already in a heightened physical state, that will absolutely short circuit the bigger outer part of our brain that requires more energy to process and think through things. And in that state, our body and our brain, I should say our brain, really doesn't want to expend any more energy than it has to. So all those difficult decisions and, nuance that we have to think through, that takes energy, that takes calories, that takes, sugar from our blood to do that. And if we're not, and if we're already in a heightened state of arousal in terms of just being stressed out, it's impossible or very difficult. You're just making the job that much more difficult to make good decisions. So absolutely schedule some time for yourself. We recommend usually some mornings to kind of set the day and set your intentions for the day. Like we've been showing on a little bit of on our Instagram feed as well for Mindfully Masculine. So that will help with just about everything, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely the human mind on autopilot, where we are not taking any action to direct our attention or our thoughts or our feelings, where we're just running on autopilot all the time. It's like it's very hard to predict and makes positive results happen when you're not doing anything to exercise your attention and your thinking and your feelings. I mean, you got to pay attention to these things, and you got to make decisions and take action, because otherwise, you're just a meat robot that is on, is just living out the programming.
Right. So a difference between reacting to your environment versus being proactive and purposely moving through your environment, your day.
Right. And there are certain things that are your only response is going to be to react to them. I mean, there are certain things you can't plan for, you can't get ready for. It's just about having, that disciplined mind that's ready to go when those things happen. Because, when an emergency breaks out, or, you get a diagnosis, or there's a breakup or a death in your family or something, you lose your job. It's like, in the moment that happens, all you have is the mind that you've prepared to deal with these things when they occur. And so, it's like we talk about with, when it comes to being in a coffee shop, or, you're at the store and you see the girl of your dreams, and you've spent a whole life of never talking to strangers, never socially engaging with people. And you're going to think, oh, okay, well, when that finally happens, I'll step up and I'll do what I have to do to introduce myself to her. It's like, no, you won't.
It'll be right. And that's the funny thing, because you think at that point, it'll be worth it to be uncomfortable. Right. Because that's worth it. That's worth it, because the girl of your dream. Meanwhile, you've got no experience doing that with anybody. And, the ironic thing is, you have to, people will again put off being uncomfortable and for lots of reasons. We don't like being uncomfortable. And a lot of times we want some sort of reward for being uncomfortable. And a lot of that is your mindset as well, in terms of, just getting out and being more social and being comfortable with everybody in your environment, rather than waiting for, this big payoff, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it really does seem, as not having a mindfulness practice or a gratitude practice or any of those things. It's as silly as, I'm not going to go to the gym and lift heavy things because, if at some point a lawnmower falls on my kid, I'll just rely on my adrenaline to make me strong enough to lift it off of him. And, it'll just work out. It's like, it's essentially a belief in magic where, thinking, I'll just, if an emergency comes up, or again, I see that pretty girl, or I need to lift that lawnmower off my kid, I'll just count on it working out, and, things will turn out for the best.
And that's the dangerous thing about, consuming too much television and movies and fiction stories, because those ideas, they get popped into your head. You see that happen and you think, oh, all right, even though it's a story or a movie and it's a superhero, so it's not real or whatever, our subconscious doesn't necessarily always remember that. There's a reason it's called a television program. Literally, you are programming your brain. So take care of what information you are consuming. And it's almost impossible to not consume some of that, that fiction, those stories and things. So you need to consciously then reprogram with other things.
Yeah. And, and we do it all. I mean, I've done it myself with, either my meditation practice or getting into shape or even therapy. It's like, I should be in therapy, but, I feel like things will work out the way that they're supposed to work out, when I'll get into a relationship and I'll figure it out, or I'll get back into therapy once I meet the girl I want to be with for the rest of my life. And, it's like, we always think that I'll just act on this later and it'll be okay. And then at some point we look back and say, I didn't act on that when I should have, and it did not go okay. And now here I am. And what do I do? It's like, well, the best time to plant the trees 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now. So you start now is what you do. And don't count on things just working out and you're not having to work at it or work for it. So whatever that thing is that you're putting off that you think is going to work itself out, Dan and I are here to tell you it's not going to work itself out. It's only going to work itself out when you care about it enough to work it.
Yeah. And part of that is if you haven't, so a lot of us go around, and I'm absolutely guilty of this, where, we get an inkling of something we need to fix or change, and we don't follow through. We don't do much about it. And I think that's because we haphazardly kind of go through life, and if we're lucky enough to see or experience or hear about consequences, good or bad, that are extreme enough for us to make it a priority to get uncomfortable and change and work on those things about our life, then we're lucky, right? We but a lot of us don't have that, don't see those bad examples or the good examples of all the good things that could happen by going to therapy, or all the really bad things that happen when you don't go to therapy. And if those aren't experienced and remembered and top of mind, we're not going to want to get uncomfortable enough to go to therapy, for example. Right. And so, the only thing I could say is, if you've got an inkling of something that you want to work on, or that you feel like you want to change or whatever, then do yourself some justice and program yourself in terms of research. Hey, what are some things, what are some benefits of doing this? What are some negative consequences of not doing this? And dig in a little bit so you can kind of find, hey, yeah, this might be, just educate yourself about that thing so that it might motivate you, or you might hear it in a certain way. So you might actually take that effort to go ahead and do that. I feel like it's naive to just dismiss something that, maybe somebody's mentioned to you or that you had an inkling about without having all the information. So do yourself a service and just get a little bit more information about that and be able to make a better decision. Right.
Yeah. And look, I wish that, I wish every significant period of personal growth in my life didn't happen on the heels of a catastrophe. Yet here we are. That is the only way that it happens for me. I've never just gone.
You're not alone, dude.
I've never just gone to an inspiring speech and decided I'm going to turn my life around. It's been, well, I fucked this up and now I don't know what to do next. So I guess I better look for some good advice.
And unfortunately, you're not alone. I think most of us operate that way.
Yeah, I wish there was some way that I could help people not have to go through it that way.
Well, that's what you're doing right now. I feel this is what you're doing here on the podcast.
And even if
you're sharing,
if that's not what I'm doing, even if we are just, even if the best case scenario is we're just putting out almost 100 episodes, that when somebody does fall off the rails, we've got a library out there that they can pick through and see if maybe they can, we can be in the right place at the right time for them when they are going through it. Even if that's as good as it gets, then fine, but, I would love to be able to adopt and I guess I've done this in some ways with my health and other things that aren't as important or don't feel as important. Incremental improvement is tough for me. It's almost like, no, I need the life-changing,
dude, we were just talking about that yesterday with you and your yoga, and it was just like, it was so funny. And it's so funny, it's really funny to watch you do this because we did Tiny Habits together, and but at least this, but you know what, the difference that I see though is you in the past, you would fight me on that. Like I was like, hey, you're gonna do yoga. You're gonna do yoga every day. You haven't done yoga in like a year or something like that. And then you're gonna you're gonna do hot yoga on top of that. First of all, every day, hot power yoga. Right? Okay. Every day for 5 days, right? And a week. And I was just like, what are you? I'm like, but you know what? You in the past, you would definitely fight me more on it, and you justify it a lot more, and you'd be like pout about it and stuff. But that's the difference, though. Is yesterday I mentioned it, and you're like, oh, you're right, and it was just like you're like, oh, you're right. We're not doing this in a Tiny Habits way. We're not doing this in a smart way, and you were immediately willing to, dial it back. And I feel like that is, you need to look at yourself and go, that's huge progress right there for sure. That it's coming around quicker to go, okay, look, this is not realistic. And you potentially then saved some frustration, saved some negative self-talk, because you probably, if you set the bar at that level and you don't achieve it, which is fucking impossible, so I think what I've seen in you personally is that you've been, you're more willing to dial it back, even though your ambitions are still really high when it comes to this stuff. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, and it's more about the system than it is about, some kind of I didn't grow a new organ that, feeds out reasonable chemicals into my brain. What I did was I surround myself with good books and friends who are experts at these things, and give myself no other choice except to, because again, the option is either I take your advice or I accept that at some point you will have an I told you so that you will probably never use, but just the fact that you're walking around with a holster that has an I told you so in it is not okay with me. So I can't let you just have that. So instead of that, I have to listen to you and I have to take your advice.
Hey, however it has to happen. Whatever it has to happen.
I cannot tolerate people walking around with a loaded "I told you so" gun.
Yeah.
So I have to take that away from them by following their advice and doing what they tell me to do. I do that with Renata all the time.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's like I have to take her advice because I can't let her bring up, which she would never do in 3 months. I can't. Well, maybe she would have her say, "Hey, remember 3 months ago when I told you should have listened to me?" And then I'd have to be like, "Yeah, you're right. I should have." No, I'd rather just listen to her today so that I don't give her that opportunity 3 months from now.
It's all about denying satisfaction for others.
Exactly. I would rather see someone else lose than see myself win.
That's freaking hysterical. I'm going to blow both of our candles out. Yeah. All right. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Instead of burning it at both ends, we'll just all both be in the dark. All right. Let's see what the next thing is. All right. We talked about again a constant theme of never give your love too easily, which is something else that you and I have talked about, which is when you settle down and you take on a girlfriend or a wife, it seems like the success of that relationship will be impacted based on how hard you both had to work for each other. If the two of you fall into a relationship where you neither of you had any other options, so you just kind of, found each other and, you went from not having much of a social life or a dating life to pairing up with this one person, and now you both only have each other. Those, in my experience, seem to be the relationships that are at the most risk for trouble down the road. Where, the people who have a lot of options and have had a fair amount of dating experience, yet they both make the choice to choose each other. That seems to feel a bit more real than two people with very little experience and very little options just kind of falling into a relationship. Because at some point, one of them is going to start feeling like they have other options. Mm-hmm. And that's going to, the incentive to stick with that relationship is going to be strained.
I know for me, I've for most of my relationships when I was younger, that was the case. But in a different respect where both of us would give up and make way too many sacrifices to other parts of our life, whether that was family commitments or friend commitments or, just anything that didn't involve spending time with the other person. And so that didn't work out. It didn't work out well for us because we were spending way too much time together, and we also gave up the other parts of our lives that made us attractive to the other person to begin with. And that was the mistake that I made when I was younger.
Yeah. And I've made that mistake too. It's like, you build this fun and exciting life as a single guy, partially in the hopes that you will attract a good partner. And then you attract that good partner and you let go of all those fun and exciting things you were into to spend all your time sitting on her couch, playing on your phone while some TV show's on in the background.
Oh.
And then you're both boring and not exciting anymore. And you start feeling like, this is what couple life is supposed to be? This doesn't feel like this isn't lighting my fire and setting off the chemicals that it used to.
Right.
And then you start thinking, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this person's not for me. Maybe yada, yada, yada. And that's, the most important thing that we'll talk about in some of the chapters coming up is making the conscious choice to inject some space and distance in your relationship. And it's really space and distance of every kind, physically, emotionally, sexually. I mean, there needs to, you don't miss what you're constantly surrounded by. You miss what's not always around.
And, part of that too, is being playful, having fun things to do that, with each other, that,
right.
that he gets into that, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, but the leader into attraction part, that, he talks about, being playful and maintaining that sense of playfulness and what that signals biologically to women when a guy can be playful, what that means. And I think we can maybe get into that on the next episode. And I think that would be something fun to talk about.
Yeah, we're at a pretty good point, I think, to break on this one. And so, again, guys, Dan and I will talk about sex at some point in more detail than we already have.
We will?
I don't know. Yes, we will.
We promise. Okay.
We'll figure out something. Maybe we can find some expert to interview and put all the responsibility on them.
I like that idea. Pass the buck.
Yeah, exactly. Pass the buck. Because otherwise, all Dan and I can do is be like, look, we don't have training in this. All we can do is share our personal experience. This is what has worked for us. And then that essentially turns into a big fat disclosure fest of me and Dan telling you exactly what we like and what we do in the bedroom.
Right. Yeah, we got to get some. Good.
And I don't want to do that. It's like, the key to a healthy masculine sex life is to have some guy in a clown costume standing in the corner of the room while you have sex with your girlfriend. Well, wait a second. That sounds really specific, Charles. Well, never mind. Forget I brought it up.
We need to get somebody on here who's willing to go, I am the buck.
Exactly.
Have you been watching Billions, the new season?
No,
that's what that's from, by the way. I thought you'd get that.
I am one season back. So the season where Damian Lewis was not there, and it was Corey Stoll, where he was like the main billionaire. I have not watched that season, and I haven't started the next season, but I am going back to New York City soon, so I will have to get caught up before I go to New York, because New York and Billions go together in a way that I absolutely love. So I definitely have to get caught up.
Okay. So
I have downloaded the whole season, and I am ready to, the last season, and finish binging that. The last season was the one where whatever that guy's name is, he basically decides he wants the Olympics in New York City, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of that season, and then I didn't finish it. So that I got to finish that season, and then and Damian Lewis is back this last season, right?
He is.
Excellent. I like the actor that, replaced him, but Damian Lewis is Damian Lewis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, Bobby Axelrod's Bobby Axelrod.
Yeah. So there's a line in this season where, they're talking about one of the presidents, and he said, the buck stops here.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt said that. I think. Roosevelt,
right? And then the new billionaire, he says, I am the buck, right? And so, it's good.
He's a good character. Yeah. Again, they were in a pinch trying to replace Bobby, but no,
I like that actor. I think they did a good job.
I like that character. Yeah, but if they're both in it this season, I'm real excited about that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. I'm glad you brought it up, because I am definitely Sunday night, when I am moved into my new place and ready to relax and kind of chill out. I'll turn my air conditioner all the way down. I will take some NyQuil, and I will try to stay awake for as many episodes of Billions as I possibly can.
Good. Sounds like a plan.
One thing I wanted to mention real quick, I have not gotten into it yet, but I did purchase a new gratitude journal that is made specifically for men. It is simply called Gratitude Journal for Men. I got it on Amazon for like $17.
Okay.
And it is a good-looking book that I will enjoy starting to fill out. And the reason I got it was I believe it was the Dating Essentials for Men Frequently Asked Questions audiobook that you and I listened to, where I'm pretty sure Glover in that book reiterates the importance of a gratitude practice. And so I know that's something I have to do. And I just buying a new book or a new gadget helps motivate me to actually take the leap. So it is one of my 3 or 4 journals or meditation books that I keep on my desk, and I don't endorse using the beginning of the year, the month, the week, any of that as okay, I'm finally going to start this good habit, blah. But today's September 1st, and I'm going to start it today.
Sounds good. We can get into that a little bit more in the next episode.
All right, sounds good. I will chat with you later, Dan.
All right.
Thanks for your neuroplasticity and emotional flexibility while we covered this weird chapter.
My pleasure.
Sort of. All right, talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.